The year is 1921. Ernest Bynum has commissioned architect Ronald to design a home for his family on Macon Avenue. This French Norman-style home emulates the French homes of the Loire Valley, where silos were attached to the house and Tudor elements can be seen in the masonry of the front facade. In order to spare Stonehaven from demolition, the Preservation Society seeks to have Stonehaven listed in the National Register of Historic Places so that its new owner, the Omni Grove Park Inn, may receive tax benefits to help with the numerous repairs. Next door, the Battle House was built in 1928 and demolished in 2006 to make way for the Fitzgerald condominiums. It was built by but never lived in by prominent TB doctor William Battle. Later it was modified to become television broadcasting station WLOS. A 20% income tax credit is available for rehabilitation of historic, income-producing buildings that are determined by the Secretary of the Interior through the National Park Service to be certified historic structures. The Secretary of the Interior has developed standards for the evaluation. Only one of the 4 criteria must be met, and we will see that the Bynum House meets at least 3. Criteria A requires the building to be associated with events that have made a significant contribution to patterns in our history. Curtis Bynum graduated from the University of Chicago School of Law in 1917. He was soon informed by his doctor that he was going blind and should go into farming. He decided to purchase White Pine Creameries on Patton Avenue, now the location of Hunter Asheville Volvo. Curtis talked his college friend Jim McClure to move to Asheville and start the Farmers Federation collection system. They incorporated a pickup service to bring all the small dairies' milk to a central processing plant. They also added their cows to existing dairies so they did not have to purchase more land. Their business grew and they bought a second dairy in Winston-Salem. Hans Broby, the creamery manager, told Mrs. Bynum the government was looking for a place to build a sanitarium, but they needed a large supply of milk. Could they furnish enough? She told Hans to go to the train and go to New Jersey to get them. Curtis had also begun a new process of the unpasteurized dairy where clean milk was processed in an ultra-sanitary worker environment. From measuring initial temperatures of the product to providing steam-sanitized containers, the milk was kept free of microbial contaminants. It was the well-intended but pseudo-scientific work of Charles Sanford Porter that created the government's requirement for a large supply of milk be made available for the proposed hospital. Due partly to Bynum's quick thinking, the government's new Oteen Sanitarium, later to be renamed the Charles George VA Medical Center, was located in Asheville. In addition, Bynum serviced the Moore General Hospital that opened for war amputees. Due to these new employers moving into the area, many new homes were built. Germ theory was established in 1882 by bacteriologist Robert Koch. It explained how TB spread, leading to new anti-spitting laws and isolated consumptives. TB was known as consumption due to the radical weight loss of the patients. It would not be until 1943 when Albert Schatz, a graduate student at Rutgers University, would discover streptomycin, microorganisms that excreted chemicals which stopped the tubercle bacillus. Curtis's grandfather, William Preston Bynum, was a jurist, prosecutor, and lawyer, and was born on the plantation of his father, Hampton Bynum. Bynum's political career spanned the years 1863 to 1879, and it required great physical and moral courage to prosecute the numerous and violent lawbreakers in the mountain counties. But Bynum had these qualities in abundance. His statement during Reconstruction that he needed no help from federal authorities to enforce the law won public acclaim. In 1873, he joined the North Carolina Supreme Court, where his portrait is now hung. Florence Bynum received her Bachelor's of Philosophy, Arts, Science, and Education from the University of Chicago in 1913. She was the second president of the Western Carolina Southern Association of University Women in 1915. This organization, founded in 1882, provides grants, fellowships, and awards, raising $156,000 for a single gram of radium to Madame Curie. Curtis Bynum had made a significant contribution to the rise of Asheville as a major center for the treatment of tuberculosis through his courageous change of careers. He helped to organize local farmers to produce milk in sufficient quantities to attract the Otine VA hospital and bring Asheville to the forefront as a national TB treatment center. His wife Florence was a prominent figure in the advancement of women's education and the development of the local PTA. Criteria C requires the work to be distinctive and the work of a master. Stonehaven possesses both of these qualities. Ronald Green, 1891-1961, numbered among the leading architects during Asheville's architectural heyday of the 1910s and 20s, and is best known as the designer of the Mountain City's first skyscraper, the slender, Gothic, Revival-style Jackson Building, 1923 to 1924. National architectural critic Fisk Kimball in Architectural Record, which described recent skyscrapers in New York as lacking in boldness and distinction, but said, a notable exception is the Jackson Building in Asheville, in which Mr. Ronald Green has arrived at simple and successful composition with Gothic forms. The Jackson Building instantly became a signature building for the city and the architect. Ronald Green supervised and may have designed the Tudor Revival-style Kenilworth Inn II that immediately became acquisition by the Army as a military hospital, referred to as U.S. Army Convalescence Hospital No. 12, or more plainly, Biltmore Hospital. The Army's decision to lease Kenilworth Inn while their new hospital was being built in Otine stemmed primarily from the emergent need for a facility that could house sick and wounded soldiers suffering from tuberculosis. It is on the National Register of Historic Places. Later it became the Appalachian Psychiatric Hospital, then Charter Psychiatric Hospital, and is now the Kenilworth Apartments. The neoclassical structure, Asheville Federal Bank, was designed by Green in 1922 for the National Bank of Commerce, using a blend of Doric and Tuscan classical orders. Later, a botched 1965 makeover cladding was removed and the Asheville Savings Bank returned the building to its former glory, right down to recreating the intricate cornices that had been demolished. The renovation was an expensive undertaking, costing approximately $3 million, but with the assistance of private consultant Sybil Bowers, the bank was able to secure the approval of the Historic Resource Commission, making the project eligible for historic preservation tax credits. The 1925 Longchamp Apartments was the first apartment building to be located in the Grove Park Inn area. They were required to have the look and feel of Stonehaven as a condition of being allowed in the district. The petite chateau style with Tudor silo made the building blend into the steep cliffside location. The Howard Gamble House, 1935, in Durham is a striking international-style design with rectilinear forms that express Mr. and Mrs. Gamble's interest in modern art and architecture. The house, quite innovative in Durham and North Carolina at the time, was featured in national magazines and likely inspired several copies. It is somewhat similar to Green's Annie Reed House, 1948, in Asheville. Stonehaven was built next to the Grove Park Inn as seen in this photograph from 1924. 2 years later, the Battle House was built between them and then in 1999 demolished to make way for the Fitzgerald condominiums. The commanding view of the colorful sunsets from the western side of Sunset Mountain still attracts visitors from all over the world. Stonehaven is eligible under Criterion B for its association with Curtis Bynum, who was instrumental in bringing the now dominant health service industry to Asheville. His grandfather, Judge William Ship Bynum of Hillsborough, was a renowned member of the North Carolina Supreme Court, and his wife Florence Helen Boyd Bynum, a pioneering women's advocate for education. Stonehaven is also eligible under Criterion C as an excellent example of a French Normandy estate by a nationally significant architect, Ronald. Stonehaven displays many distinctive features typical of the style. The picturesque, multi-gabled, asymmetrical massing, masonry emulating half-timbered walls, an undulated slate shingle roof, Tudor arched openings, and the use of diamond pane casement windows are all indicative of the French Norman estate style.